Hello, this is Jen Monahan with Health One Technologies, and today I'm going to give a demonstration of an immunization form developed by our organization that is designed to work with the GE Centricity EMR and CPS products. This form was originally developed to assist practices transitioning to the new immunization table provided by GE and also allow them to use the old observation terms so that they could transition slowly for various parts of the application, such as flow sheet use, letters, handouts, reports, such things that would all need to be updated once they made the transition to the table. The form works by allowing practices to write to the old observation terms and also to update the immunization tables that are necessary to submit information to your state immunization registries. In addition to the back-end functionality, the form also allows organizations to maintain inventory, lot number, ordering information by location of care, which is a critical piece of information when you have multi-specialty groups or organizations that have more than one location and they need to maintain lot numbers to be used for data entry during the actual injection itself. In today's session, I am just doing a demonstration of the form. This is not meant to be a training video. There is a separate training video that is available from our organization if you purchase this form, but today is just a demonstration so that you can understand how the form works and if it might be a fit for your group. I am demonstrating this form as a standalone form. However, many organizations have this as part of their office visits. Some people do use it as a standalone form. It just depends on the workflow within your organization. It can be flexible and work either way. The first tab you see is a review/order tab, and this tab is designed for providers or staff coming into the visit, looking at the immunizations, determining what the child has had done already, child or adult. So you can see, so here's my series for my Hep B's, my rotavirus DTaP, and this is a pediatric set that I'm looking at. And I can see each injection that has been given to this patient and the dates that they've been completed. On the far right, each group of immunizations has a details button. When I click on that details button, I will see the detailed information for this series that has been given. So I can see the vaccine name, the date it was administered, the lot number, where it was given, who gave it, any adverse reactions, which is important. If I see this Hep B here has a red exclamation point, that means there has been, or red asterisk, I'm sorry, that means there has been an adverse reaction of some type previously in this series. So by clicking on the details button, I can actually see adverse reaction, and it was a rash. And if there are series that have more than one vaccine given, you can click on the details button and you will see so you'll see vaccine number 1, vaccine number 2. So every vaccine that was given in that group, you will see the information displayed under the details button. So a typical workflow is that somebody comes in, they come to this page, they review this information. Depending on the organization, some of this information at the top may be completed at this point, or it may be completed later in the visit. Generally, what we see is a nurse or an MA would come in, they would verify the VFC status, for instance, so this will default in a previous value if it's been completed. If not, they can just click the verified button, and that will actually say that we verified that for today with the updated date. I'm going to not check this because I want to show a little bit later in the video what happens if this is not completed. And then the ordering by is typically the provider needs to be there. So you have a couple of options. So if the nurse or MA is completing this, they can just leave that empty. When the provider comes in, they can click and say, yes, I agree with my nurse's findings. Or the nurse or MA can click a drop down. They'll get everybody that is in their location, and they could select a provider from that list. On the bottom half of the screen, it says vaccines ordered. Now, this does not write to the GE Centricity orders module at this point. What this does is just creating a holding place in the system for the vaccines that are being ordered for this patient. The ordering itself happens once the actual immunization has been given. That way, in case the patient leaves the office or mom says, you know what, I just really don't want to get all of these injections today, they have the option to do so and it doesn't hit your billing window. So from a workflow perspective, whoever reviews this page, they come in and they say, okay, my kid needs a DTaP or a Hep B, a DTaP, I think this is the Penticil vaccine, and an MMR. So once the child, we've checked those off for this patient, those are now considered the ordered vaccines for the visit. And they display in a couple of different places, which I'll talk about a little bit later. If you notice in the bottom right-hand corner, I have a box that has the yellow background and has a few things here that are defined. One is prior adverse reaction. So that means that there's something up here that had an adverse reaction signified by the asterisk. So that's just kind of alerting somebody that that's there. Second one is there are some general guidelines attached to this. So I'm trying to give an MMR to a child that is 15 weeks old. So that's out of the age range for that child. So it's going to tell me that this is outside the normal age range that I would give that vaccine. Those are high level clinical warnings that are in the system, and they can, the organization can decide if they want these displayed, or there's a checkbox that you can turn off these notifications if you don't want to see them. So typically the nurse or MA checks off what they want the provider to give today, basically. So this is what the child is due for based on the schedules in front of them. Once they put this note on hold, the provider comes in, sees the patient, and then typically what we see is the provider clicks here then to enter their name. So now I can see, okay, these vaccines are ordered by the provider. When the provider's done with the visit or routes it to his nurse, whatever your workflow is within the organization, whoever is actually going to give the vaccines, they come to the second tab, which is Give Vaccines. So the first thing I see here are the vaccines ordered for today. And if for some reason something was missing or I forgot something, I just quickly go back to the Review Order tab, check it off at the bottom, and then it would be displayed back up here in my vaccines ordered. So there's no going to the orders module. That doesn't actually have to happen. We can just identify the orders from this standpoint. So whoever's giving the vaccines, they're going to click this drop-down list, and in whatever order they've drawn up the vaccines or they're giving the vaccines, they can choose them. So I'm going to start out with my Hep B. Now notice when I click this, it's saying please verify the VFC status. So it's not allowing me to document this vaccine at all until my VFC status is verified. Once I check verified, all of my information will light up for me to complete the immunization. So this is a stopgap from billing purposes, documentation purposes, just to make sure that VFC status is documented. So when somebody's documenting the vaccine, there are a whole series of information that needs to be completed. The source, was it a state vaccine or private vaccine? That's mostly needed for billing purposes. And now that we're sending information to immunization registries, there are other additional information that we need. So what group does the vaccine belong to? What is the type, the NDC, the CVX code? These are all things that your average end user is not necessarily going to want to enter into the system. So what we've done is we have a button that says Get Available Lots. Now this button is going to display for you the lots that are available for that location that the user is logged into. And this is an important bit of information. So if the user is logged into location 1, they're only going to see those immunizations that are in the refrigerator for location 1. They're not going to see the other 3 or 4 locations that are in your organization. So there may be instances where there's 1 vaccine in here. You might have 2 or 3 or 4. The lot number is first, and then you can see if it's a private or state purchase. And then there's a whole series of other information, which really the average end user doesn't need to know. They just need to know this is the lot number that I'm going to give for today. And I'm going to use that selected lot number for my documentation. Once they click that button, it is going to fill in for them the source, the group, the type, the NDC, CVX, manufacturer, lot number, expiration date, visit date, a typical route, the dose, and that we gave them vaccine information. So all of that's going to complete automatically into the system. The user is just going to need to pick the site. Where did they give it? The series is going to default in based on what is already in the system. So this child or patient has already had a hepatitis B1. It knows that based on what's already in the system. So if I come back to my review tab, I will see there's already something in series 1. So it wants to go ahead and put it in series 2. Now, if for some reason that's incorrect, maybe there's one on paper, there's a birth hepatitis B that was given at the hospital that hasn't made it to your system yet, a wide variety of things transitioning from other practices, etc. The user can make that adjustment right here, but it's going to default for them the series that they think it should be. And then they're going to click the user to say, I'm the one that gave this. And once they have all that information completed, they're exactly where they need to be, they just record that data. And that's going to go ahead and write out the information to the observation terms as it worked previously in the gene eccentricity applications. It's going to write to the immunization tables and qualify for your registry submission. And it's also going to put the order in for billing purposes. So if I see up here I have my Hep B, that's actually put into the system. So all of those things happen automatically behind the scenes. The users don't have to do anything. They don't go to the orders module. They don't go to the flow sheet. They don't go to the table. Everything happens from here automatically. And if your practice is that you wait for the patient has to wait after a vaccine, you can document that they waited. You can document any adverse reactions that might have happened, all within this entry portion of the form. You'll also notice that that hepatitis B is no longer a vaccine ordered, it is a vaccine given. So now my vaccine 2 is available in a drop-down. So if I pick the combination vaccine, you can see that this is all information that I need to enter. I have a couple of buttons over here that I'm going to point out that I didn't talk about on the hepatitis B. So get available lots, that's where we're going to get the information. There's a view history button. That's going to show me what's been given already so that I don't necessarily have to go back to the review order tab. If I'm unsure of what has been given previously, I can just click that view history and see right there when it was given last. I can also check declined or not given. When I check this, it's going to give me some information that I need for registry purposes. So if a patient declines a vaccine and I need to submit that, there's still some information that I need to record. You can also print a vaccine declination form here if your organization is going to do that. There's a button for complete safety check if you are actually doing that within your organization. Some do, some don't. If you click that, it's going to take you to a series of questions. Has the child had these things today? You can click all negative, or you can go through and just click the positives. And once you're done, you just click back. So I could say all negative, for instance, and then I can click back to give the vaccine. And it's going to tell me that that was completed. The other thing I can do is I can print an ABN basically right from here. So these are all things that I could do with this immunization. With the combination vaccines in particular, so I'm going to get the available lot for this, and I only have one in my system. Again, you may have multiple that are in here. This is a demo system, so there's not a whole lot of information. I'm going to use this vaccine, and you'll see that there's a group that it defaults to. There's a type, NDC. All of this gets completed into the system. I'll pick the site that I'm going to give it. But what I want to show you is that this is going to go into DTaP number 3, IPV number 3, and HIB number 3. So the combination vaccine is not writing to Pentosil. It's actually writing to all 3 of these plus Pentosil. So when I record this vaccine, it's going to go out. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to bill for the Pentosil. It's going to do the DTaP, IPV, HIB, write it in the observation terms, plural, that it needs to, and write it to the necessary immunization table. So now I just have my MMR left to do. The users goes, they pick MMR. Then they're going to get the available lot number, select from what's in their system, just like we had done previously with the other vaccines. Okay. And all of the vaccines are now done that were ordered. They're in the given section. The orders are in for billing. The one thing that the users do need to do is they need to touch the Immune Admin button. Previously, these used to be able to do it automatically, but now with the way that units are handled, we have to have the users click a button. So they're going to click this, and it's going to put in the first unit and then each additional unit that was given. So if you're given 5 vaccines, for instance, the first unit, and then there'll be 4 units tagged into the additional units. The other thing, just to kind of show you quickly on the review order section, all the vaccines that I had given for today are actually in the system. So there's my DTaP, my Hib, my polio, my MMR, my Hep B. So everything is now on this front page for review. So each Give Vaccine tab can manage 3 vaccines. So there's a second tab for giving 4, 5, and 6. Exact same workflow happens in this page. There's a tab that allows you to document TB PPDs. So this is very similar to other forms that you might see out there. You just get your lots, record your results. Very similar process. There's a safety tab, which we had talked about previously in regards to when we give the vaccines. And then there's a preload tab. So the preload tab allows you to put in historical information into this patient's record, whether at the time of the visit or used alone as a standalone. So for instance, if I click my DTaP, IPV, and Hib, Penticil vaccines, for instance, I can come here and say that I got this from another provider. And then it allows me to click all the drop-down options that are necessary to record this. And I can record everything all at once. So in this example, I'm going to say that this patient already had Penticil 1, 2, and 3. And perhaps they transferred out of your practice. They went and got the 4th vaccine. Now they transferred back. And you need to record that 4th vaccine. So you click the series as number 4. The type given was Penticil. The date that it was given. And then you hit record. And that's going to record the 4th Penticil for you. And if I go back to my review order page, I will actually see in number 4, DTaP, Hib, and polio. So users can go through this page and record as many immunizations as they need to. There's also a section on the bottom for titers. So if you're documenting any titers that you need to record into the record, that can be done here as well. The last tab allows you to do edits. So if you make a mistake on one of the immunizations, or also if you need to record any adverse reactions. So for instance, if on my MMR that I recorded earlier, it really should have been series number 2 instead of series number 3, I can click on this. It's going to bring all the information in for me, and I could just change my series, for instance, and then click update. And that's going to go through and update the vaccine table for us, and it'll reflect that change. The one area that you may have to modify is if you are using the version that records to observation terms and the database table, you are going to have to record or correct the observation terms as you would have done previously in GE Centricity. And that has to happen on the flow sheet, and unfortunately it's a manual process. There's no way to automate that. That vaccine is now updated to series 2. And if I go over to my review order page, I will see that that MMR moved from number 1 to number 2. The very, very last tab does allow you to modify the text. This is what's going to print in your note ultimately. So if there is some mistake made that needs to be updated or corrected that you want to reflect into the actual office visit, this is what's going to print into the record. That concludes the demonstration for the actual immunization form. There is a second form that would be reviewed, which is the administration form, which is where users put in their lot information. That actually happens in a separate video associated with the training of using the app, using this particular form in your environment. But I will review quickly the workflow associated with that. So there's a separate form in the Centricity environment that the nurse manager or whoever is managing the inventory actually brings up into a chart. We create a chart in your system called immunization management. In that record, we bring up a note that is associated to a document type of your choice. It can be a custom document type, or you can just choose internal other or something along those lines. The person brings in that form, they enter in and manage any lot information that is needed for the practice. So again, this is by location. So each person that may manage a refrigerator in various locations would have access to this. They go in and they enter in the lot, the expirations, the manufacturers, all the information that we just talked about, as well as any inventory if you choose to use the inventory management piece of this. Once all that is completed, the users just end that note and sign it and keep track of it, and it updates it immediately for everybody using the system. If you have any further questions or you want a more detailed demonstration for your organization, please feel free to contact us at info@h1tech.com, or you can visit our website at www.h1tech.com. Thank you for watching today and have a great day.